I'll go ahead and call the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to order.
I'll call the Board of Finance and Board of Finance to order.
All right. It is the 26th of June. If we could all just please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for taking time out to be here tonight. I know that it was important to get this done before the new fiscal year. Tonight on the Board of Selectmen, we have myself and Harry Shaker present. Is there anything you want to touch on before we invite maybe Bob Belden forward to just give us a little summary or where we've been, and
Perfect.
we'll take it to vote. Do you want to just touch on that, Bob? Or I know you provided your letter, and I believe it was part of the agenda package.
Hey everyone. So I've spoken to all of you over many months now on our budget variance. We've had good news the last couple of months, so instead of a budget variance in the $760,000 range, driven by a number of items, most particularly in the area of special education that we talked about as recently as January. We've had more money come in from state grants, which especially around the special education grant, and we've had some underruns in other line items in the Board of Education budget. So in the end, the final requested number is $397,579. We haven't finished closing the books. We've agreed with Mrs. Marion to continue to monitor this, but her advice to us all on the Board of Education was, let's get the basic contingency transferred at this point before we end the fiscal year, and the Board of Education is supportive of making that request, and we did that. So I'm here for any questions you have.
Mary, Eileen, Ryan. From our side, this is what we've expected. We've worked every meeting, we've worked about this number, we talked about this number. Not what we expected, I mean, it came in less than we actually expected, but we, at this time of the year, we expected to have some kind of a need for you guys, and we've said we would support it the whole time. And we were glad that the school operated without making freezes and doing things to make it a good school year for the children. So I think this is what we expected, and from my point of view, I have no questions. This is what we've talked about. So.
Yeah, I'll speak for myself. You've been very forthcoming, and we've been following along the way. Marcia's kept me apprised of, where we are, and then the good news that it's come down quite significantly. My only concern was, should it come down any further and the transfers made, how does the town then recoup any overage?
We will underrun. The school year's over. We're not spending anything more than we're spending, so we'll just go back to the fund balance. We would end up underrunning the budget if it came in any further. It's one of the advantages of doing this on the 26th of June, is we pretty much finished doing whatever we're doing.
But we won't know the actual until August?
Yeah.
But we want to get all the books balanced, and we don't expect it to be a large number, but there will be a little bit here, a little bit there, that they expect this purchase order of $10,000 to be spent, only 7 is spent, or things like that will come in. Unemployment, if there's a quarterly bill that we don't know what that is yet. So there'll be a little bit both directions, but we don't expect it to be significant.
So this number will hold fast, and then
And then we'll do a
it won't
final
increase,
adjustments.
right?
We'll do final adjustments at the end, that if we need to. I mean, if they're under budget, we don't need to do an adjustment. That, as Bob said, that if they come in under, it just goes to the fund balance, just like any of our underruns go to.
Okay.
And if there's any surprises, which I asked Mr. Post, he says we're not expecting any surprises, right? It would be small. Right? It would be something that, was out of our control, that, was adjusted at the end. So pluses and minuses, but not expecting anything significant at this point.
All right.
My only question, it's just a thought, is this just something that happens, or is there anything that we might have learned here that we could maybe help for next year, or not really? Is it just overruns that, you know?
These were all the
Fuel.
anticipated over, I mean, these were the things that we identified even when we were approving the budget last
Right.
year, that we had health
Oh,
insurance, we had
that's right.
special ed, we
Okay,
had
yep.
those, I mean,
I
there's.
completely forgot it.
Harry, in the past, if they had 30 special ed students, sometimes they would put in 2 as a buffer because they couldn't predict it. So that money was projected on something that wasn't real.
Yeah.
What we've asked them to do in the past 4 years, Bob, right, or so,
It's been about 4.
to give us the real number and don't project what you don't
Yeah.
know, right? If you don't know it, don't project it, and we'll support it, because we can't control if 5 special ed students move into town or 5 leave. That's a number that changes even during the course of the year, Bob, correct me. It could-
So let's talk about what there were 4 very specific buckets, Harry, and we will just walk through those.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that thing.
Yeah, so special ed is one of the 4, right? And it's one that we've all agreed that,
Yeah, on the back of the,
yeah, and it's on the back of the letter in your
yeah, it
package.
actually spells it out.
But the special ed, the request was, please run it tight in the special, in Board of Ed budget, we'll carry the contingency on the town side. The second item was very unique, and if you remember, at the time we did the budget, heating and diesel fuels were going all over the map, and we agreed at the time of the budget over a year ago that would be better held contingency-wise on both the town and the school at the top, right? So we actually did not come in and request our budget be increased at the time, because if you remember, fuel oil costs were going out of control at the time, and we had hoped that they would moderate, and they did moderate to some degree. The third was health benefits, and if you remember, we had a situation where the Connecticut Partnership Plan actually brought in a change to their rates after the budgets were finalized. And again, as an item, much like fuel oil, let's hold the contingency at the top. So those 2 were kind of known items. And the last was on the teacher turnover savings. We had historically budgeted about $120,000. And with agreement with everybody, but we agreed to take that up a little bit because we had been running $400,000 of savings, and we upped that to $200,000.
Yeah.
This year's the first year it didn't work in our favor, right?
Yeah.
It actually worked against us. So it's again a matter of where you hold the contingency, town side, school side. There's and to be frank, it's working the way it was designed, right? So. It's better to hold the contingency on the broader base than to hold it on just the Board of Ed budget. And I think it's been working. And we've actually given money back each of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
This is the first year that we've actually had to use that contingency.
Yeah, this year was certainly an anomaly.
It was a wild ride.
But in practicality, I mean, I think this is exactly what contingency's meant to do and cover, so it's just covering the shortfall, and we correct it and move forward. I really appreciated the transparency and the regular updates. I thought that was really important to just keep our finger on the pulse of kind of where everybody stood, so it's gonna be important to carry that forward, I think, especially as Mr. Post departs.
And I will tell you, I appreciate, and the whole Board of Ed appreciates the support that you all have given, which is don't arbitrarily cut. We're carrying the contingency at the top. We did ask them to be frugal, right? We tell them don't short yourselves, but don't go. It's a world where we are seeing spending increases, and for the town's benefit, just be very frugal, but don't short yourself. That was the tone. And this last little adjustment we had that worked in our favor it wasn't in one line item, it was in a whole bunch of line items. We just, the frugality kind of came through in the end, so. And that actually helped bring us down, to the levels that we did it. So I think the schools did what they needed to do as well. And I did go back, circle back and say, did you short anybody anything? And the answer was, man, of course, we would have loved to have a little extra school, in-classroom library book here and there, but in the end, it didn't feel like we shorted anybody anything.
Good.
So,
All right,
I'm fine.
we'll have more room for discussion after the motion, if there's anything else we wanna touch
Yeah,
on.
I think it's gotta go to you guys first and then to us, so.
So I'll make the recommendation that the Board of Selectmen approve the transfer of $397,579 from the town contingency to the Board of Ed line to cover the shortfall in the education budget and forward to the Board of Finance.
And I will second
Any discussion, Harry?
No.
Are we both in favor?
I am in favor.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion that we transfer $397,579 from the contingency to cover the Board of Ed shortfall per the Board of Selectmen's approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Great.
That's it. Thank
Motion
you.
carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you for being here. We have one more item on our agenda,
Okay.
which are the intra-department transfers.
The intra-department transfers, those be,
No.
pardon me?
We don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything,
Go ahead.
no.
Do you want to adjourn?
No, go ahead. If it's not a lot, we'll listen.
Those become important because we use the budget as a control, that they can't put in a purchase order if it throws them over budget. So towards the end of the year, we have to do more transfers more frequently. With the exception of one department, everyone is under budget, and so they're just small amounts, increasing a line and decreasing a line to offset it, which will allow them to do their final purchase orders. In total, if everyone spends every one of their purchase orders and doesn't put in any more in the next 2 days, I think we'll be 400,000 under budget in total. Just a quick guess, last year I estimated that there might be 50,000 of purchase orders out there that don't get spent. That would bring us to 450, but I would say we're gonna be a few 100,000 under budget is my best guess right now, based on the system that we have. And that's a good position to be in, because we can only go one direction. I have started, and they're highlighted here, some inter-department transfers. We have one department that's struggling with budgeting, and we've been trying to coach them all year, and now he says he sees the light, and he will absolutely do a purchase order for everything next year. And we're meeting July 6th to make sure that happens. But they'll need more money. Those purchase orders were part of the problem. And then they have employees that they just need to manage the time better. It's the registrars. We used to have a different registrar controlling this, and he did a nice job controlling it. And this is a new registrar that's controlling it, and hopefully year 2 will be better than year 1. So the inter-department, if you have, intra-department, if you have any questions, I can answer. There's nothing too significant. The most significant one is in the library, but we don't really control the library. They're treated as one line item, but I just put them in there to document the transfer that they've already approved.
Did you have a chance to look at this, Harry, or
I didn't get a chance to look at all of it, but
what page is the library?
Library is on page 9. And they just had some savings because they lost their director during the year, and it's been a few months, and she hasn't been replaced. So there were some things, for example, there was a book drop that they had put on their list, and the board had talked about going back to that, but they're able to spend it out of their operating now.
Was there anything else aside from the library?
That was just the one with the biggest numbers. That there really isn't anything that has large numbers that stuck out to me at all. That a lot of tiny numbers is really what it is. very unexciting.
Get a chance to see it this afternoon.
We have to somehow make this bigger. I can't see it.
I thought I was printing on legal, but, and I thought, oh, when it came out, 11 copies on
I can't go with this.
letter, I thought, oh, they're not gonna like that.
That's all right.
I'm good with these interdepartment transfers, I don't have any questions. So is this where Mel was confused off when you met with all the department heads last time and he thought that he was good and I mean, I know that's a separate issue, but did these intra-department transfers come up in the last round of your meeting with the department heads?
He didn't join us for the third quarter meetings. On the second quarter meetings, yes, we talked about it. And he did cut back the salaries, or the extra time after the second quarter meeting, that so they didn't work as many hours. But you know, they used to work. The registrars have people that work on election day, and then they have other people that come in, and they used to work 100 or 200 hours a year, and last year they were up to 1,400 hours, and we don't have that in the budget. He was gonna talk to them and just make sure, and then at this last meeting, he didn't really like the numbers in the budget. You gave them to me, so I asked for the July 6th meeting. He can only spend the same total. If there's some other allocation that he would like, let me know and we'll look at it, but the total is finite, so.
All right. So I'll make the motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the intra-department transfer of funds.
Intra.
Intra.
I will second that.
Anything to discuss?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and since those are the only items on the agenda, I'd like to adjourn the joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance for the Board of Selectmen.
I'll adjourn the Board of Finance meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. It was probably one of the fastest we've had.